Thank you for connecting to our support channel. Here we're going to go over how to access our Premiere Network's FTP server for the purpose of using the Fox Sports Actuality and Update service. So on screen we have a snapshot of what the email will look like that comes from our support team. In this case we're going to use our trial account, where you see the words FSR-trial and then vitamin 12. Those are the specific username and password. They're separated out right here and right here. You'll notice in this first link up here, they were included along with the path that includes our server address and then the folder path for Fox Sports Radio. The reason why we do this is because you can save this entire link as a network location, and that will allow you to log in directly to our server, jump right into that FSR folder right off the bat every time. We also separate it out for you if you need to set up an FTP client like a FileZilla or WSFTP, Always Sync, anything like that. We're going to show you how to use FileZilla later on in this same video, but first we're going to go through Windows Explorer, which is the most common way that folks will connect to our server. So we're going to open up File Explorer. You can also hold down your Window key and the letter E to get here. We're going to click up in Libraries, FTP, : and 2 forward slashes, ftp.premierenetworks.com. We're going to enter. It's going to prompt me for a username and pass. So like we talked about, we're going to do FSR trial. Password is vitamin 12. We could save it if we chose to. I don't recommend saving it here because then you have the possibility of your temporary file cache browser deletion conflicting, and you could lose this every now and again. So we're just going to log on. Now I see all the folders on our server. You can sort this by details and make it a little easier to find. We're going to go down to Fox Sports Radio. Again, let's make this into details here. So I see that on top we have put the Actualities and Updates folder using the number 1 prefix, and that's just to make it as easy as possible for you to find. So for the Actualities first, we go in here, we're going to want the MP3 folder, and then inside you will see daily folders that contain all of the sound bites that we've captured and edited for that day. So if you were to go in to this 118 folder, you're going to see all of these sound bites that we captured, edited, and made available for January 1st. And then at the bottom you will see a text document that will explain to you what each cut is, and why we set it up that way. So now that I'm inside the folder I want to be in, I have a couple different options. So if I wanted to save this Michael Bennett clip to my desktop, I can right click, I can say copy to folder, I can go ahead and put desktop, and I can hit OK. And if I move my window over, there's my file. So if I didn't want to do it that way, let's say for cut number 2, I just wanted to click and drag it out. There we go. Or a third way is I can right click, I can go to copy, I can go to my desktop, and I can hit paste. And all 3 methods that we just showed you will make this file locally available to edit, load into your automation, play out from this machine, whatever you'd like to do with it. So that is how to access the Actualities, the MP3 folder, and the daily sound, and then go ahead and copy those to your local machine. So we're going to go back to the Fox Sports Radio directory. For your 15 and 45 updates, the 1-minute update, we're going to go into the 1-updates folder, into the MP3, and I'm only concerned with these 2 files, 15 and 45. The file names do not change. They will update as soon as there is a new audio piece recorded. That generally happens at least once an hour. On the you'll see these updated usually on the 16-minute and the 46-minute of the hour, because it plays out at 15 and 45 live, and then the file captures and updates and is available on our server inside the next minute. This, like I said, this file name will not change. It'll just overwrite with new content, and so each time you could do, if you wanted to grab them both, you could highlight them both, copy to folder, hit my desktop. If I move my window, they're both there. Alright, so that's how to access the FTP server, the Fox Sports Radio folder for actualities and for updates. What we can also show you how to do is how to map this location to your local computer. So I'm clicking on Computer in File Explorer. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go add a network location. I'm going to go next. Choose Custom Network Folder. Next. This is where I would recommend using this full address that you see right here that has FSR trial : vitamin 12 at ftp.premiere-networks.com / Fox Sports Radio. The reason why we're going to do that is because then every time you use this mapped location, it has the username and password that it needs to connect to our server. It is not relying on a temporary storage location to grab this information every time. Radio, we're going to hit next. This name can be anything you want. Let's just say FSR Actualities and Updates, just for the purpose of our video here. We hit next. I don't need to open it. I'm just going to hit finish. So I see now that I have in my network location, I have this Fox Sports Radio Actualities and Updates folder. How do I get to that? Well, let's make it easy. Let's right click. Let's go to Send to Desktop, and I'm going to create a shortcut. I can close this window. I can go to my desktop here, and I have a shortcut. So if I double click on that, you notice it has automatically logged me into the FTP server, and it's already browsed to the Fox Sports Radio folder. And now I could get to Actualities, or I could go back, I could get to Updates, everything in one clean location. That's how to map it to your local machine. I can now show you how to use FTP clients, FileZilla. In FileZilla, you have two options. You can use what they call the Quick Connect bar, which is right here at the top of the screen, or you can go ahead and set up a site. You can see we've done one for a show called Little Steven already here. If I wanted to set up a site, this is to make it easily accessible day in and day out, or week in and week out, however often you were going to access this folder is what I would recommend doing. So new site, let's just say FSR. In my host, ftp.premiere-networks.com. I don't need to enter a port number. By default, it's port 21 for FTP connections. I don't need to change the protocol. Encryption is fine. Login type is going to be normal. So in my username is FSR trial. Granted, your username is not going to be FSR trial. You're going to pull this from the email that we send you, and also the password. And then I would recommend making yourself a little note here to say what your password is. In this case, my password is vitamin 12, so I'm going to save it in there. So that way, if I wanted to connect to an FTP server off this computer, I wanted to give someone on my team this information to use it off-site, maybe on a remote or a special circumstance, I have this saved somewhere that's easily accessible, and I can get that information to them quickly. And I'm going to do one more step here. I'm going to go to the Advanced tab. In my default remote directory, I'm going to put /Fox Sports Radio. Why do I do that? Because I want FileZilla to go ahead and jump straight into the Fox Sports Radio folder for me. I don't want to have to browse for it every time. And then I can go ahead and hit connect. And you see over here on the right hand side, it's already jumped into Fox Sports Radio for me. So let's just take the actualities, for example, the MP3. Go back in our January 1st folder like we were working with. Let's just grab, say, these three Michael Bennett files that we've been working with. We have an option. We can go to transfer. Excuse me, before I do that, I need to hold down the control key, right click on these, and I can say add files to queue. You see it put them down here in my queue. I can go to transfer and I can go to process queue, and what that's going to do is download from my FTP server to the local folder that I've selected on the left. In this case, I'm just jumping them on the desktop. Or I can also take a file and drag it straight from the right and dump it over on the left. It'll do the same thing. That's pretty much how you download using FileZilla. I mean, it's about as straightforward as you want. If you're grabbing everything in this January 1st, you want to just grab it all, just highlight it all, hold down the control key, right click, add files to queue. You can go up to transfer menu and process queue. You also know you could hold down the control key and the letter P. And so here's a good example of some things that can come up. It's going to say, I see this file on your machine already. Do you still want me to grab it? In this case, I'm just going to skip it. There's another one. I'm going to do this for this current queue. I want it to always skip that's something that I already have, because I already know it's okay. And it's going to grab everything that we selected. And if I go to my desktop, you see they are all sitting there ready for me to do whatever it is I wanted to do with them. So the next time, let's disconnect here. The next time I used FileZilla, the reason why we set up a site, I open up FileZilla. I can go to the File menu in Site Manager, or this little drop-down menu underneath the File menu. If I select FSR, notice how it automatically jumps in there and connects for me. That's why we set up a site. You don't have to enter the user and password name every time. If you choose to use the Quick Connect, the host information, ftp.premiere-networks.com, your username, again mine in this case is FSR trial, and then vitamin 12, and I can hit enter. And see, in this, because I'm just entering the host server name, I now have to browse down to Fox Sports Radio, and then in this case I'd go into my actualities or my updates, and then proceed to download the same method that we've gone over. This is absolutely usable. You can do this as many times as you want. I just highly recommend going ahead and setting up a site. If you're going to go back every day and grab new cuts, it just saves you some time and it'll be a little quicker if you choose to use the FileZilla option. So that pretty much covers Windows Explorer connections, how to map a network location to your machine, and then how to use FileZilla as an FTP client to connect with our server and then download from the Fox Sports Updates and Actualities service. Thanks a lot.